Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we are very pleased you have joined us for our Metals and Mining Conference. Our next presentation is from Power Metallic. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for a one-on-one meeting by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm pleased to welcome Terry Lynch, Chief Executive Officer of Power Metallic, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol PNPNF and on the TSXV under the symbol PNPN. Welcome, Terry.
Hi, everyone. My name is Terry Lynch. I'm the CEO of Power Metallic, and I'm going to walk you through our presentation today. It's a pretty exciting story if you're into mining and exploration and discovery stories. We've had a remarkable run here over the last couple of years, and we think it's going to continue. So without further ado, we'll dive right into it. We're going to talk to you about our world-class high-grade copper, PG, and nickel discovery in Quebec. It's called NISC. There we go. We're not going to tell you anything we don't believe is true, but it's with all investments, we expect you to also do your own due diligence and go from there. Thanks. Little perspective on the capital structure. Fairly typical for Canadian deals. The one difference I would say is that, unlike a lot of deals, the major shareholders own about 50% of the company. The largest shareholder is myself and my family. We've been the biggest investor over the last 2 years, but we've had a bunch of other very prominent investors come in. So about 7 or 8 of us own about 50% of the company. We think that's good. And what's key, I guess, is that they've been investing all the way through. So I think when you're big investors continue to invest, that's often a robust sign of what they believe is coming forward. So I'm going to walk you through some of these investment highlights in detail. The first one is just about the amazing discovery. That's a polymetallic discovery, copper, nickel, PGEs, that's platinum, palladium, silver, and gold. So let's dive into that. Before I get into it, one thing that always comes up these days is, what about tariffs? What will the impact be? And, for us, it'll be minimal to positive. Number one thing is we don't currently export to the USA. It won't be for like 4 or 5 years. So, by then, this thing will be sorted one way or the other. It takes about, 5 years to build these things. The equity and commodity markets are inversely related. So we think while the equity markets are a bit challenged somewhat these days, and that's obviously impacted our pricing, the commodity markets are still, being very robust, and we're in a top quartile commodity market. We think tariffs will ultimately lead to lower interest rates, which is bullish for commodities. And it's a difficult time, so you focus on margins. And we're very lucky in that we're very high-grade deposit. So high-grade deposits like ours will be the ones that shine in these challenging times. High grades, high margins, high ROI. So for us, the tariffs will not be a problem. We mentioned in that brief blurb that it's commodities time to shine. This is a really great chart, thanks to Bloomberg and others. Basically, it just shows effectively comparing equities to commodities. And you can see right now, commodities are trading at or near their all-time low. And whenever it does there, you can see it rips up. And so we're expecting a fairly serious, broad-based commodity response. And that's going to be great for the stocks that are, obviously managing the commodities. Let's now dive into the project itself. So NISC is in northern Quebec. We'll show you where that's at in the map in a second. It started off as a nickel project. We used to be called Power Nickel back in the day. Changed our name a couple months ago to Power Metallic to better reflect the polymetallic nature of the deposit. So the bottom left-hand corner was NISC Main. That was our nickel sulfide, fairly traditional. We have a 43-101 of about 7.1 million tons, about 1.13% nickel equivalent. Probably it's grown to about 8.5 or so. And we actually saw, we believe we could have gotten to 20, 30 million tons down there on that. But while we were looking for nickel, the average size of the hole at the time we were drilling was about 400 meters. In our drill budget, because some of the holes ran a bit longer, we had 200 meters left. And so, it so happens, often in mining, happenstance, luck really sort of plays a role. So they wanted to, my driller said, "Hey, Terry, do you want to drill another hole here, we'll need an extra 100,000. Myself and my friends were basically funding the company at this point, but I would put in 500,000. My friends would put in 500,000, and then through the 2-for-1s in Quebec, we get another $1 million. So it'd be $2 million would go in the till. So for every dollar I would put in, we get $4. So if I invest directly, it's only 1-to-1. So that didn't seem to make common sense. So I said, guys, what do we have for 200 meters? That's what the budget had left. And they said, well, we got this project up on the top right-hand corner called Wildcat at the time. And we said, it looks a lot like what NISC is. It's probably going to be another nickel sulfide. They often come in these bundles, string of pearls, they call them. And they said, we should drill that. So we did, and we drilled it. And of course, we made this massive copper PGE discovery. And that's called the Lion Zone. That transformed the company and made us the top performing mining stock in Canada last year. So that's pretty remarkable. These are the numbers. These are 5 holes that we picked sort of selectively across the deposit. Average width 20 meters, and average grade 8% copper equivalent. The grades are pretty ridiculous, but there you have it. This stuff doesn't come around about once every 20 years, and we've been very fortunate to make this discovery, and it's growing very quickly. This is a very cool slide made by a very prominent scientist. His name is Dr. Steve Beresford. Dr. Beresford joined us, first as an advisor, and now he's on our board. He's probably the premier polymetallic scientist in the world. If he's not the best, he's certainly in that conversation. This is his triangle here, where he basically maps out these deposits that he's become obsessed with. This is the only deposit type he actually looks for, and it's called an orthomagmatic nickel copper PGE deposit. And you can add the silver and gold, and the PGEs become a noble metal effectively. And he sees this triangle relationship. So some are more nickel-y, some are more coppery, some are more PGE. So each of these projects has basically somewhere between 1 and 10 million tons of contained metal. Okay, it's not making it a giant or a super giant. So these are very valuable. The world's most valuable mines are orthomagmatic. Some of them you'll know by name, Norilsk, which is the giant Russian mine, the only trillion-dollar mine in the history of the world. That Oktябrьский, which is right in the middle of the diagram there in the red, that is the deeper part of Norilsk. That particular section is 1 square kilometer deep, and it contains over $1 trillion worth of metal. Amazing. So Lion, which is our discovery, which is just a little bit to the right of it, actually has, for its size, higher grades than Oktябrьский. But Oktябrьский is obviously over a much deeper intersections. We're like 20 meters, they're a kilometer. That's the big difference. More comparable probably to Sakatti, I guess, at this point in time, which is a 40 million ton plus and growing deposit. In any event, the interesting observation that we've made about this is these are all nickel sulfide projects, but they for every ton of nickel sulfide you find, ultimately you find 5 tons of copper sulfide. Pardon me, it's the reverse. For every ton of copper sulfide you ultimately find on average 5 tons of nickel sulfide. Right now at Lion, we're probably 1.2 copper to 1 nickel, probably soon getting to 2 to 1. So what does that mean? Well, it means very likely we're going to find a massive nickel sulfide in addition to what we're doing right now with the copper. So what that means for you as an investor is there's a lot of asymmetric upside to this mineralized area. It's a very exciting time to be looking at this discovery. So here's a good look at the Lion Zone as it's growing. And you can see that basically the width is about 550 meters on the top. It's about 550 meters deep. And then you'll see off to the left-hand side, these are blocks of the blue areas. Those are what we call sulfide plates that we need to explore. One of the unique features of our project is that we're able to use the downhole or borehole EM as a major discovery technique. So we've been able to, in our case, we've pretty much had drilling success in the 50% range, which is ridiculous in mining. And what happens is when you drill a hole, you put this tool called the borehole EM tool down, sends out an electromagnetic pulse, and then it picks up sulfide bodies within like 150 meters or so, depending on the thickness of the resulting rock. And then you know where to take the drill the next time. Now, it's not perfect because it doesn't give you the Z of an XYZ coordinate. So sometimes you're a little bit too high or a little bit too low. But ultimately, within 2 or 3 holes, you typically get those hits. and that's how we've been growing the ore body. So it's been pretty fantastic. This is what the sort of future is going to look like as we go forward this year. We've got some pretty serious untested ground. Lion is up there in the circled zone on the top right beside Tiger, which is another zone that we're quite interested in. And you can see on the right-hand side a bit more detail. We just put a press release this week on some major hits that we've made on the drilling, and a couple more that we expect to be having out next week. So we're expecting to grow the sweeter part of the Lion zone in the coming weeks. And we've got, I think, 14 holes left to report on our winter program, and we've got a lot more holes coming. It's interesting, obviously, when your stock has a run like ours did, people say, hey, did I miss it? And, I say, well, obviously you missed the first dollar run, but it's really the next 10 that you should be concerned with. That's where the real money is going to be made. And while I say that, I don't mean to be cheeky. These are, when you make a world-class discovery, 30, 50, 100 baggers are sort of to be expected. So I think this is what we've got, and this is sort of what we're sort of proving out. And this is, sort of how when we just went out and completed a fundraise, and we sort of compared ourselves to a number of other people in the, the polymetallic matrix, and we were the cheapest of those. And soon, I think we'll have as much material as everyone except for Norilsk. And you can sort of step through it sort of step by step. Foran's a great one to look at. They're a very well-run company, done a great job with their discovery. Again, I'm not downplaying these discoveries. They're fantastic teams that have done a great job. I'm just saying, relatively speaking, we're going to have, I think, as much material as them shortly, higher grade, and yet we're trading at a fifth the value. So something's going to change. They've been de-risked. They've gone forward into feasibility studies, and that's all good. So they should get rewarded for that. But when eventually you get paid for the metal on the ground, and I think we're going to find a lot of metal on the ground, and that's what's important. And that's really why we were able to do, we closed a $50 million financing in late February, I think. And basically some of the top names in mining participated. Robert Friedland and Rob McEwen, legends in the space, both of them for their second and third times. A number of prominent mining funds. We've got something like 15 billionaires that have invested in what at the time was Power Nickel, is now Power Metallic. So we're well funded. That financing was done an average price of $2.50 a share, which is almost double where we're at today. So that speaks to somewhat the remarkable deal that's offered on the table right now. Why is the price gone down by that much? Well, it hasn't really gone down by that much. What happened is that in Quebec, is one of the real features of drilling there, is you can get 2-for-1 financings on your exploration. So, for example, our investor actually in this round put it in $1.45. So right now it's around, last I checked, it's around $1.20, $1.25. So it's down a little bit, mostly to do with the negative, focus on the tariffs and, just the overall malaise. But, I think now that we're starting to get assay results out there, we'll expect to get that stock moving back in the right direction. We just touched on, one of the benefits of Quebec is the amazing exploration financing that is available there. It's also available on development. So if this project costs $400 million to build, $200 million of it will come in the form of various tax credits that you can turn to cash from the federal and provincial governments of Canada. So that's fantastic. In addition to obviously the financing, some of the other benefits is the Quebec government and the Canadian government have done a great job of working with the First Nations. So in this case, we work with the James Bay Cree, an amazing group of people. They're very accomplished. They've been probably the most professionally managed of the First Nations because of their early, functioning with Quebec Hydro and obviously the James Bay Power that comes from there. So they're very well run and a lot of professional managers there. They are very pro mining, so that's often can be a problem if your community is not supporting mining. That could be a problem, but in this case, they're very supportive of mining. So we're happy to have them as a community partner. The other thing in Quebec is that we're amazingly lucky to be located where we're at. We're literally off the major highway route north, so you can drive right to the site, right to the rig. We basically have hydro lines on the site. We're across the road from a major Hydro-Quebec substation, so cheap green power is available for us. and we're only 8 kilometers outside the town of Nemaska, which has got a regional airport and has accommodation and food for our crews and local staff. So it's really quite an amazing spot from an infrastructure perspective. So location is really critical in these deals, and we've got that in spades. The exploration team is very accomplished and very successful. We spoke briefly about Steve Beresford. He was formerly Chief Geo at First Quantum, and then MMG and IGO. So 3 very successful multi-billion-dollar polymetallic companies. So when I tell you he's one of the top polymetallic experts in the world, you can believe it. Joe Campbell and Adam Finley run a company called GeoVector Management, one of the top 2 or 3 geological consulting firms in the country. It's much cheaper, much better for a company like Power Metallic to engage Joe and Adam, and Joe's come on as our VP of Exploration, to work for us than it is to sort of hire internally. We were able to attract a much higher quality, group of talent this way, and it's a very tax efficient vehicle for us. We can write off 100% of their costs this way, whereas if they're internal, it's only 70%. So it really does pay to do it this way. One of the usual concerns on a polymetallic mine would be metallurgy. How will the a mineral come out of the ore? There has been some problems in some of these projects in the past. Chalice in Australia has had its struggles with getting its PGEs out of the ground in an efficient way. We don't expect to have the same issue. We're running a very conservative number of 80% recoveries, including our copper, when we'll probably end up closer to 90%. But we're just being conservative. But we believe our metals are going to report to the chalcopyrite, and that will allow a very good high extraction rate. But we're doing a bunch of work on that right now and expect to have some reports back in Q2 of this year. People ask us on the exploration and drilling, what are the next steps? Well, the next steps are we're going from 3 rigs to 6. We're actually building a new core cutting facilities to handle the increased volume of core that we'll be delivering. And we're currently shut down for goose season. There's 3 seasons you can't drill at NIST: goose, moose, and turkey. So goose is sort of right now towards the end of May, and then moose season is September 15th to October 15th, and then turkey, just a traditional Christmas break. So about 40 weeks a year we can drill, and we will be drilling, and we'll be scaling from 3 rigs to 6. We'll drill another 100,000 meters of drilling, to sort of explore what we have here at NIST. And it's pretty interesting. We've done a lot of scientific work, gravity, EM surveys, the borehole EM. We've spent a lot of money prepping for this, and we're really super stoked about what we found already. Analysts say we found I think Hannam in January suggested 10 million tons of 7% copper equivalent. We're comfortable with that number. We think there's going to be a much bigger number at the end of the year, and we think there's going to be a very big number at the end of the day. So that's super exciting. We've got from a news perspective, multiple assays are pending. As I said, 14 assays will come out between now and probably mid-June, and by then we'll be drilling again, and then another 6 weeks the assays will start all over and run for some time. So this is going to be a very newsy mining story with a lot of positive news, we believe, coming, and that we're at the stage now as a company that our drill bit will determine our success, and we think our drill bit's going to be very successful. Some other interesting opportunities for us as a business: when we were a nickel sulfide company, when we were just called Power Nickel, when we were focusing on nickel, we got approached by CVMR, which is a very prominent nickel refiner. They're very big in the world of nickel powder. So nickel powders are most used for EVs, for 3D printing, and also for I guess armaments and missiles and bullets. So unfortunately, these are all growth areas, and that area has been very good. The big difference with nickel powder is, while nickel's in a bit of a slump because of the Indonesian sort of crushing supply, nickel powder continues to go up in demand and in price. So they're getting between 40 to 60,000 a ton versus, say, maybe 16,000 a ton for just general nickel concentrate. So you want to be in the powder business if you're going to do this, but of course you'd have to have special expertise to do that. That's where CVMR is in. They're an investor of ours, and they're conducting a feasibility review right now of building a nickel powder plant using our nickel. So expect to have that out perhaps in certainly in H2, I would think. So that's another incremental opportunity for us. We've always maintained a very keen desire to build the world's first carbon neutral polymetallic mine. How do we do that, cost effectively? Well, we're lucky in that, the very nature of the rock itself lends itself that way. It's on the ultramafic that we are able to source this ore. And ultramafic rock naturally sequesters CO2. We're obviously lucky in that Hydro-Quebec is across the street, so green energy is available for us to do it. And then we also know that working with people like CVMR, there's 3 ways to make nickel. You can smelt it, you can use hydrometallurgy, or you can use chemical metal vapor process, which is what they do. It's got the lowest carbon footprint. And so our view is that basically we can get to a carbon neutral status, and it will really cost us a whole lot more money, yet it will make our projects much more attractive both to investors and to offtake partners. One of the things we did, because we were a small junior company, was we tried to use technology to be our friend. There's an interesting new technology out there called ambient noise. It's run by a company called Fleet. Fleet is Australia's fastest growing company. And they use these little things called geodes on the right-hand side here. It sends sound pulses down 2,000 meters into the earth, comes back as a sound map. They correlate that with your drilling data, your geophysical, your magnetics, your IP, all that stuff. And they're able to give you a very good stratigraphy look of what you've got underneath there. You're able to see the intersection of the rock types. And generally, that's where you're finding your deposits. And if you're lucky, you're able to develop a signature for your deposit of what they call the velocity of the rock. So we know, for example, for us that our in our nickel zone, it happens between 36 to 3750. So, when our geological teams come back with targets for us, one of the first things we ask is, hey, what does it look like from the speed perspective? What's the velocity of the rock? So we know we're targeting a certain rock velocity. So that's helped us a lot in making more successful drilling decisions. We recently just spun off our spin-off companies that we own half of. It's called Chileian Metals, and it'll be going public, we think, within the next couple of months on the TSXV as well. And it's got some pretty robust opportunities. We think that'll be a really nice bonus for our shareholders. The spin-out at time was around probably around $7-8 million, so not huge relative to our market cap, but that was very conservatively priced. We think there's a lot more upside to that, and we've used Fleet to identify some of the opportunities for that in Chile. So we stand by to be excited about that opportunity. The team itself at Power Metallic is fairly lean. We put our money in the ground and hiring great teams around us. So our chairman is Peter Kent. He's a retired corporate lawyer. Greg McKenzie is an ex-investment banker, corporate lawyer. Steve, you heard about. Les is a successful businessman and an accomplished shareholder of ours. The team has been together for several years. We're working well together, and we're looking forward to grow it as we need. That pretty much wraps up the Power Metallic story. So I see there's been a few questions come in, and I'm just going to step into the question side of the scenario. Let me just check here. All right. So question number 1 is always the toughest ones first. Your stock price surged and now is sliding. Is there any particular reason? You know what? We had a stock surge around the time of the spinoff. There's some technical reasons for that, and of course, we had some amazing news, and we actually thought the stock would continue to go. And then, of course, we did this financing, which was at basically the moving average at the time, pretty much at 145, and then obviously the tariff whole scenario happened, and that's unsettled a lot of markets, not just our market. And so that's caused the thing to flatten out a little bit, and we've sort of lost a bit of momentum. And of course, people have generally gone to, I think, security. But I think the reason why we're out doing pitches like this is we're basically saying to people, look, commodities are going to have their day, and what you want to do is invest in a commodity company that's got exposure. In our case, with exposure to 6 different commodities, so you're well hedged in that respect. We're very well financed by pretty much the smartest guys in the business. So yeah, it's pulled back. So that means you lucky folks can buy cheaper than smart money did. So, this is the bargain opportunity. So I think, yeah, great question. but it's also a great opportunity. Second question is, what about the copper market? How are the tariffs going to affect copper? I've been looking at the copper market. Generally speaking, if you look in the time frame of when we would come to production, like in 4 to 5 years, the copper market looks amazing. It looks like it's going to get a lot higher. Like, don't think $5, think $7. But in the short term, in the next year or two, it probably is going to, I think, be sort of flattish. And generally, it's sort of, if anything, this year there may be a bit of an oversupply, depending if the R word happens, if the recession happens. Obviously, copper is Dr. Economy, but I mean, what's really driving copper is urbanization and electrification. So more and more people are living in urban environments, which means they're using copper. And electrification is driven by obviously the movement to EVs, but also the AI. So AI, I think last year was 3%. They say it's going to go up to 10%. I saw the ex-chairman of Google said it could ultimately use 90% of the world's energy. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So if you need energy, you need copper to transmit it. So I think copper is going to have an amazing future. And I think the great thing about our polymetallic deposit is that not only do we have world-class copper and lots of it, but we've got world-class PGEs, platinum, palladium, and nickel. And then we've got a healthy, like 15% of gold and silver. So very well diversified. So I think that'll be really good. Okay, one last question. What's the news flow going to be like over the next few months? So it should be very robust. We've got obviously 14 more assays to come. So those will come. And then, of course, there'll be more drilling happening, more rigs happening on the site, more assays to come from that. And I think there'll be, the spin out should get public. So that'll be a plus. And there'll probably be some very exciting corporate development news as well. So I think, for us, we're, very well funded. We're all cashed up, until the end of 2026, just raised $50 million. So we have something like 45 plus million in the bank. So we're 100,000 meters of drilling ready to go. So, as these things go, we found an amazing discovery. It's done very, very well. We've got a world-class team executing on it. We've got the cash. We're super undervalued relative to our peers. Maybe it's a good time to check out Power Metallic. Thanks for listening. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Ciao for now.